Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart. Well, today we're talking about doing the most and not listening. My name is Deetra Dennis, and I'm the founder of Full Circle Health Coaching LLC, and I'm the heart health coach with a passion to empower Black women to live at their optimal heart health using lifestyle interventions that are evidence based and culturally relevant. So, I would love for you to go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you receive notification or alerts when I upload a video. Share this video with the sister who you feel could benefit from the information. And I would love to hear your comments down below of how this information is impacting you. Well, you may be asking again, if this is your first time, welcome. And if it's your time coming back again, welcome back. But again, the Heart to Heart series is a girl talk over a glass of red wine. And I use the quotations red wine because our wine here on this channel is hibiscus tea. Now, being a Southern girl, the house wine of the South is sweet tea, and I just up leveled it a little bit to make it hibiscus tea because hibiscus has heart health benefits in that it's a plant grown in the tropical region, and it relaxes the blood vessels, which ultimately helps in lowering your blood pressure. So go ahead and pour your red wine in. Cheers to you, and let's chat it up. So now let's get back to what I was saying. Doing the most and not listening. Okay, so you remember last week when we talked about men and women are different and about the heart attack symptoms, how they are different with each gender. I also referenced Go Red for Women, which is a movement of American Heart Association that raises the awareness of heart disease in women and really saving the lives of the women by, again, empowering them with the tools and resources to help them live at their best life and best health. So I have been a Passion Committee member. It's a Go Red Passion Committee member since 2011. And each year, the Go Red for Women, and as a reminder, that the first Friday of every February is Wear Red Day. And again, that's raising awareness. And I know February is Heart Health Month, but the first Friday is Wear Red Day. Sorry, I digress, but just wanted to share that with you. But each year, the organization selects, they do a casting call to select real women with real heart stories. And all of the stories are very touching, but there is one that stood out to me from in 2013. She was one of the real women. And her name is Gail Alexander Wright. And her story really stood out to me because as you'll hear, and I'm going to read it to you in just a moment, you'll hear, I kind of saw myself in her story and all the things that she did. And you may find yourself in her story as well. So allow me to just share a little bit about her. So again, her name is Gail Alexander Wright. And she was she's still living, is a thriving young woman. And at the time, when she had her real story, she was sharing that she was an active drilling reservist in the US Navy. She was the owner of a custom cake business. She was a hands on mom with her teenage daughter. She was a wife to a husband that was stationed in Iraq. And now, this was the thing, she was an avid exerciser. Sounds like she was the picture of health, right? Well, allow me to read a little further. Well, she also trying to get all of that, pack all of that into a day. She only slept 4 to 5 hours each night. And as a result of that lifestyle of having a lot on her plate, really led to taking a toll on her body. And so at the age of 37, Gail had a heart attack. So let me share with you, like I said, doing the most and not listening. So leading up to the actual heart attack, 3 weeks before that time, she was having symptoms. And remember again, and feel free to go back to the video from last week about men and women, because I really want you to, have the information to help you, live again at your optimal health and being able to recognize signs and symptoms. But anyway, I talked about with a heart attack that it is could be an immediate and intense, or it could be over time, like over hours, over days, or over weeks before the actual heart attack. So again, 3 weeks prior to Gail's heart attack, she was having signs, but because she was busy, being busy with life and being busy with all of the things that were going on in her life, she ignored them. She was having left-sided neck pain as well as arm pain. And again, she ignored it. And then on the day of the event, thank goodness her daughter was at home. And so her daughter was able to witness this, her mom's experience in that. And Gail mentioned in her interview that she was sweating profusely and she saw her daughter, but she couldn't articulate what was going on with her. But again, her daughter was seeing her in a sense decline right before her eyes very quickly. She again sweating profusely, and she also, her color changed because many times, because the oxygen is not going to where it needs to be, is going to the place of injury. So she started having an ashy color, really losing the color in her skin. And so thankfully, again, her daughter was there and called 911. And Gail now also is a Go Red for Women Passion Committee member in her state, so that she can empower other women so that they don't have to go down that road that she went down, in order to listen and pay attention to their bodies and really not overdoing it. So I want to, if we could have a little, really, it may be difficult, but I want you to receive it in love. And so with that, let's take a drink before I get into this one. Okay. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Black Superwoman syndrome. Not sure if have you heard of that before? And you may have not heard of it, but it is indeed a real I won't say diagnosis, but it is truly prominent in our community. And there are 5 different behaviors that really identify the Black Superwoman syndrome. And this term was coined by a professor at the University of North Carolina, the Chapel Hill School of Nursing. So it is truly a real thing. And there are 5 behaviors, but we're just going to focus on one. And so the one that I wanted us to talk about today is the obligation to help others, and then feeling guilty if we say no, that we're letting that person down. And in a sense, it's like the disease to please kind of thing. But I really want us to, and I know again the term you may not be familiar with it, but in our community, this is something our ancestors had, how they had to cope during the time of enslavement, the women in particular. And it was, they needed that at that time, but it's not serving us well now, because as a result of those behaviors, is leading to our detriment. And I really want us to change that narrative. We have so much to do in our community to make impact, and we want to show up as our best selves. So, I always like to give you some call to action. So I have 2 today. And I have a few quotes, 2 quotes that go with each of the call to action. So the first one is, say yes to yourself first. And the quote here says, and I want you to think of this anytime someone asks you to do a project or, an opportunity or whatever it may be. I want you to hear this quote in your mind, before you respond. Okay. So here the quote, it says, when you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself. What do I mean? I'll give you an example of me as well, not as well, but an example from my life experience. So this was years ago. I was a new nurse working at the hospital, and I was working nights, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 3 days a week. And then I was also very involved in my church. I was on the praise team. I sang in the choir. I was the leader of the health ministry. I was also helping with the youth. That was a lot going on. And I'm not a night person, but as a new nurse, you had to start at working at night because the seasoned nurses work during the day. So that was already a challenge for me, adapting to, having to be awake all night and sleep. And on my days off, my circadian rhythm was just all off. Okay, I'll just say that. And so it was just a lot. And I had to step back at some point because I was at a point of burnout. And for me, I don't know about you, raise your hand or type in the comments if this is you. When I'm at a point of burnout or very close to burnout, I get to a point of like, okay, I don't want to do nothing, just don't want to do nothing, and really having to force myself to do whatever it is. And I never want to get to that point because I love serving and love being of service to people. And I want to always show up as my best self and give my best and give, again, from a space of love. And when you overload yourself juggling so many things, you know, rather than on the back end, have to have a conversation with whoever it may be, your leader or whomever, and say, you know what, I need to back off. Rather than doing it on the back end, let's do it on the front end. And if you need to take time before you respond to them and say, let me think about it before I give you an answer, so that you can go back to this quote and say, if I say yes to them, will I say no to myself? Will that no mean no rest? Will that no mean, okay, my plate is already full, but I'm just gonna, add something else on it. The plate then becomes a platter, and then ultimately becomes a buffet. It's just too much on the plate. So again, say yes to yourself first. The second one is practice self-care every day throughout the day. The quote here, it says, self-care is so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. And again, I like to share with you my experience. So for a year and a half, starting from like 2018 to 2020, I was a part-time caregiver in caring for my Aunt Mary. And so it required me to go home every other weekend. So I would leave on Fridays when I ended with work and travel to Macon, which is normally an hour and a half, but with traffic around here in Atlanta, it took even longer. And I would be there from Friday until Sunday and come back and start all over again to prepare for the work week. I had to, because I always wanted to show up and caring for my Aunt Mary, and not just my Aunt Mary, but being there for my mom and my cousin, because they were there every day and I was just there every other weekend. And I wanted to always show up in a space of love and, not for my Aunt Mary, for her to know that this was out of love and not feeling as though she was a burden to us. We chose to keep her home and not putting her in a facility because we wanted to care for her at home. And so what I had to do, I had to, on those weekends that I was not there, that I was home, that I made sure that I was filling myself up. If I went to the sauna, sometimes the infrared sauna, just to quiet myself and to just relax and replenish. I would also spend time with girlfriends, having a little girl talk and a little time of kikiing and all of that. Did that. At that time, that was prior to what we're in now, going to the movies. And then I would, I love reading, so I would read. Or if it was dancing around in the house, whatever it was that would fill me up, so that, because I had a demanding job on top of everything, working long hours there, but whatever it took for me to fill myself up and um, be in a space where I could give from my overflow. One other thing now, because it's been a year almost now in a few days, that I would have been a full-time entrepreneur. And starting out the first quarter of the year, I felt like I was on that corporate hamster wheel where I was meetings back to back, back to back. I had to change that after the first quarter. I was like, because this feels just like corporate, and I could have gone back to corporate for this. So I had to start creating boundaries for myself so that again I could practice self-care every day throughout the day. So I start my day as a time of gratitude, a time of prayer and meditation. I get in my workout because if I don't get the workout in the morning, it may not get done. I would also have breakfast. Then I would, and groom and get all of that, the AM care, morning care done, all of that done, and then I would log into work. I do not take meetings on Monday because that's an administrative day to get caught up from all communication that came in over the weekend. I have meetings Tuesday through Thursday, out of the office on Fridays and the weekend. I do not respond to any of the messages because I have to, again, be sure that I am taking care of me so I can show up well. When I have coaching clients and I schedule those appointments, I make sure I buffer that time. So if I have a client at 12 noon, then that session ends at 1 o'clock. I do not schedule another coaching session until 2 because I need to again be fully present with the coaching client. And really after that meeting with them, I have to debrief, document, and tie that up in a sense like in a bow so that I'm done with that one. Take a step away from the desk, walk around, clear my mind, and so that I am fully present for the next client because they deserve that from me, right? So, all of those things I do to create the practice of self care every day throughout the day. And then I end the day with gratitude, prayer, and writing in my journal. So, whatever practice for you in order to make sure, number one, that you say yes to yourself first and then practice self care every day throughout the day. Those things are so important. And I know this may have been a little longer than we normally talk, but I felt that it was very important for us to share that as we are in the holiday season and, starting a new year and a whole lot of things going on. Be sure that you say yes to yourself first and that you practice self care every day throughout the day. So, thank you again for tuning in and be sure to follow me on Facebook at Full Circle Health Coaching LLC. If you would like to subscribe to the newsletter, you can go to fullcirclehealthcoachingllc.com. And all of that will be in the description below. And again, remember to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone else. And I would love to hear your comments. If you've had any of the experience like Gail, or how do you practice self-care every day? And when have you said yes to you first? I would love to hear that in the comments. And so remember, you are the full circle. And within you is the power to create, nurture, and transform. So until next week, tap into your power.